My name's April Huntsman. I'm the Senior Director of Animal Welfare at Adopt-A-Pet. I love working at Adopt-A-Pet because I get to marry all of the experience I had working in animal shelters with using technology to make everyone's life easier.
And I'm Jen Zhao. I'm Staff Product Designer at Adopt-A-Pet, and that's just a fancy title for I've been designing for a very long time. At Adopt-A-Pet, I focus on the experience for all of the people that use our website and services, including adopters and shelters and rescues.
Excellent. And do we have anybody in here from the San Francisco SPCA? Okay, we could not have done this research without them, so we just want to give them a big, huge shout out because they were able to, they were able to basically lend us not only Boba Fetch for the research, but also lend us their facility to allow us to get the photos in all the different places in their facility and with their staff. Boba Fetch is still available for adoption, so the biggest win from today would be if we can figure out how to get this dog adopted. So please share his profile on social media. But also, we really can't do any research projects without you because we all work from our homes or in offices behind computer screens. We don't have animals. So please always remember that we reach out to you, keep an eye out for our emails because we're always looking for opportunities to do research with you to really change the animal welfare industry. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to get into the research and how we designed this study, but I think the most important place to start is what question were we trying to answer with this study? We've released a lot of research around personality traits and having photos and videos, but what we wanted to be able to answer was, is there a formula we can give you as animal welfare professionals and volunteers and fosters that makes a photo the most effective at getting interest in your pets? So can we give you that X plus Y equals Z, and then you can go back and get the most interest possible in all those pets that you're putting online. So we had some very specific goals around this research study. We really wanted to understand all of the different factors because over the years there's been different research done on photos, but with photos things are always changing because of social media and because we now have a Gen Z generation that's actually coming up into pet ownership, and they grew up with cell phones and social media and all of those things. So we wanted to come back to certain factors like, do we want to see people in photos? Do we want to see props? Do we want to see pets outside? How does a pet photo in a cage impact interest? Things like that. Then we also wanted to understand if there were any nuances based off of geography, but also demographics. So is a Gen X, I am Gen X, are we more likely to click on a different photo than Gen Z? Is a boomer, and I mean that in the nicest way, are boomers more likely to click on a different photo than millennials? So we wanted to understand that as well. And then we basically wanted to collect this set of learnings to hand off to you and then set you on your way to take the photos that will get the most interest and have the most impact. And then as a bonus, I was like, Jen, while we're doing this research, can we do more research on adoption fees and understanding what are people willing to pay for adoptions, because do we really know? So could we figure that out and then give that information to you? Next slide, Jen.
Hey. So getting into a little bit more detail on the actual setup of the study. So we did a quantitative survey, right? So quantitative, we're getting those big numbers. So over 500 responses so that we know there's statistical significance that we can apply the trends and patterns we're seeing across a broader population. We also did a set of qualitative interviews, and so the qualitative is to add color, like why are we seeing the trends and patterns that we're seeing? And for qualitative, you actually only need a minimum of 5. They found that over 5 people, you're just kind of hearing the repeat of the same rationale. I chose 9 participants because I was really trying to evenly spread them across this age range of 21 to 50, and that's just because that lines up with the biggest demographic of age that uses Adopt-A-Pet. We screened for people who, are truly interested in adopting a dog or a cat, because we did dog photos and cat photos. And then for my interviews, I wanted to make sure they actually liked both dogs and cats. So collecting the data, the activities for both the survey and the interviews was fairly the same. The first task was a paired comparison, so that's where they're seeing 2 photos at a time. So we had a total of 55 dog photos and 42 cat photos, right? Like nobody's gonna sit through all of that. So it's basically randomized. And like I said, they're seeing 2 at a time. They pick the one that they feel is the most compelling to capture their adoption interest. The second task was a ranking exercise. So again, like with the 587 surveys that were sent out, again, nobody's gonna sit there and rank 55 photos. So there's a really cool methodology called max diff that you can Google later on your own time, and you'll actually kind of see this in action when we do the activity. But they basically, again, get a randomized set of photos, and they pick the one that compels them the most and the one that compels them the least. And that gives us a score for each photo that allows us to rank the entire set. For the qualitative people, they weren't as lucky. I made them sit with me on Zoom and rank, 10 photos, not 55.
And then talk about why they ranked it that way.
And then for the interviews, I also had them do a third activity where I showed them a grid of 16 or 20 photos and had them tell me which one they noticed the fastest versus which one, again, that they found most compelling that would actually make them want to click through into that pet. So yeah, you're like, okay, blah, 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 that's boring. What are the actual photos? So let's look at some of the photos. And again, I won't make you guys sit through 55 and 42 photos. But to show you the categories, right, we had like these different buckets. So, some full body photos, and each of these buckets had, again, like 8 to 12 photos total between the dogs and the cats, but you're seeing the entire body of the animal in some way. We have the portrait, kind of like close-up photos where you're really focused in on the face, the head, maybe like all the way down to the shoulders, really like eye contact kind of photos. We had action shots, running, eating a treat, doing something, walking around. Outside, inside, and pretty self-explanatory, some obviously looking like they're inside of a house versus outside, and you saw some of the grassy ones in the previous slides as well. Staged and or with props, so, clothing, toys, backdrops, blankets, that type of deal. Digitally and graphically altered. We get a lot of these on Adopt a Pet, right? Like you're cutting the dog or the cat out, putting them on a plain background, a color background, you're adding stickers, you're adding text. How does that affect people's perception? And then lastly, with human or other animals, again, pretty self-explanatory. And I know in the teaser for this session it said with children, but it turns out it's pretty unethical to test photos of children. Even AI would not generate that for us, so I guess TBD.
Okay, so just stand by because we're going to do this activity, but I just need to, we may not be ready yet. Okay. So let's quickly pass, don't scan this QR code yet. We're going to come back to the activity. Okay. So quickly get past this, look at it. That was a teaser.
Yeah. We were hoping you guys would be able to do the activity before we saw all the juicy results, but I'll get into it.
You submitted your photos, so you can't do anything about it now.
Yeah. So Mary will let us know when she's ready, but okay, so we'll get into the results right now, starting with some like big overarching themes before we get into those specific categories that we just saw. So the biggest theme, like repeatedly throughout every interview I did, was that people want to see the pet clearly. So this is where the quality of the photo matters. Things like lighting or composition, the resolution of the photo. It's not that adopters are sitting there judging like, are you guys good photographers, But if they can't see the details and the characteristics of the pet that they want to see, I literally had one interviewee who was like, I want to see the eyes, the ears, the mouth, I want to look inside that mouth. If they can't see those because of something, of the quality of the photo, then interestingly, that actually directly translates to how professional they think your organization is, right? Like we at Adopt a Pet, we understand, like you often don't have the time or the personnel or the resources to sit there and do like a whole photo shoot with each pet. But again, think of the day and age we live in, right? Like we all have iPhones or Google Pixels, every phone release, they're touting the better camera quality. And so for adopters, they're subconsciously just thinking like, if you can't even be bothered to take a decent photo of the pet, like do you care about the pet? So you can see some of these quotes here, I'm not gonna read them out loud, but you can see quotes corroborating how they're looking for these details and how that translates, the quality of the photo translates to the professionalism of the organization.
But quality doesn't mean like photo shoot. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about like hiring professionals to come in and do that photo shoot. We're talking about seeing the pet, that it's not super pixelated, that kind of quality.
So getting into the priority of photos. So for the first photo, people are really wanting to see this kind of headshot or like portrait type photo. So that means, you know, the face, like seeing that face and head really clearly, even down to the chest and shoulders. And even ideally, they want to see this like 3/4 view. So, okay, so this is front facing, right? This is like, you're only seeing my face. Okay, this is side facing. You're really just seeing my body. So, but they kind of want to see this like 3/4 view where they're getting my face, but you know, a little bit of the body here.
The high school like shot.
So these photos here are from the qualitative interviews, the ones that surfaced again and again, either in the paired comparisons that were picked or in the ranking exercise appearing again and again in the first 3 positions. So you're seeing the theme here, like I said, either like, you know, portrait face on, that 3/4 view. You might be thinking, okay, there's an outlier there with that cat, but I promise you we'll get to that. So quantitatively, that also corroborates what I just said. So these are the photos in the quantitative surveys, right? 587 responses. These were the ones with the highest scores. And you can see that second one, even out of the paired comparison, it was selected 72% of the time, like very quickly. Like they were like, yes, that's the one. For cat, same thing. And again, you know, you'll see an outlier there, and we'll get to the staged prop slide, but that one actually was selected 74% of the time and also very quickly. But you know, with these first 3, you're seeing that again, like the portrait, the headshot style, the 3/4 view. So after that first like 1 or 2 headshot portrait type photos, people are wanting to see like the full body of the pet now. So this is more important for dogs than for cats, but yes, especially for dogs, they're wanting to kind of see like how big is the dog, right? They want to be able to imagine it in their home, in their yard, like how is it going to fit into my family, like size-wise, maybe I have children, you know, like where's my child going to come up to the dog, eye level-wise. And again, you can see that quote where they're saying that. So this is the second tier of photos. Right, so, I mean, kind of ignore the titles, I mean, it's likable, but it just means like after those, the top scores, these are the ones, you can think of it in terms of, like I said, priority. So these are the ones that came in second, and you can still see a lot of that, like, right, like portrait style, eye contact, but now you're seeing like some like more full body, you know, looking away a little bit, but you're still getting like a really good view of the dog and those, you know, factors like good lighting and composition filling the frame. And same thing with cat here. And then third in priority, so now it's like, okay, we got the nice headshots, we got the nice full body views. Now they're wanting to see, like, if there are extra couple of photos there, they want to see some kind of like quote unquote visual evidence of personality or some just like, extra information. So with the photo of Goose, that's actually my cat Goose, I used to, you know, rover and foster a lot of dogs. And so, you know, like cat people, us cat people will see, you know, realize like, okay, he's not super happy, his ears are a little bit flat. But at least like, you know, some respondents said that at least that tells them this cat has been around dogs, whether or not this cat actually likes dogs. And then, you know, with Boba Fetch here, you know, people were like, oh, you know, maybe he's really affectionate, he's coming in for a kiss. And so, you know, yeah, so like, with these extra photos, you're just wanting to provide some more personality. And so again, I kind of ignore the title, it's just less appealing. It just means like, okay, now we're getting into the third bucket where these are not the photos that people want to see like off the bat. These are not the photos you want to use as like the first photo, right, that appears on like a pet card or a pet profile. These are not the ones that will snag their attention, but these are the kind of the ones, right, like, okay, Boba Fett is interacting with toys, or, you know, he's taking a treat. So it's giving some extra information, but it's just not the most compelling photo. And same thing here with Cat, you know, people really did not like
the photo of Jen.
You know, it's not the first photo they want to see, right? Because they're like, okay, this cat has an owner. Like, why would I click on this cat? And, you know, I think they would hope that this cat likes people. Okay, so are we maybe ready for the... Okay. Oh, wow, okay.
The internet is terrible in here. Is everyone having the same, like, terrible experience? Yeah. So just consider it a break from work when you can't answer emails because they're not coming through. So.
Okay, I guess we're getting into, you know, the specific themes here. Okay, so on staging, this means, again, we're using backdrops, we're using clothing, we're using toys. Generally, the interviewees agreed that they prefer a natural setting instead of a staged photo shoot. So you can see like some of these, green teal quotes here, like they're saying that the outdoors looks more natural. They basically want to see and feel that the pet is in like a real life situation because that helps them envision the pet better in their own home and situation. And then we see a bunch of negative comments here about, the blankets, looks like the cat's been kidnapped, just kind of like these distracting elements. Interestingly, the leash comment is pretty interesting because somebody said that the leash makes them think that the dog is not very well behaved or trained. And again, like we know, like a lot of your dogs probably not, the most well behaved or trained, but it's just a little nugget for thought of how you might want to take these photos. But more than anything, so it's not to say, and I'll reemphasize this later, it's not to say that you can't use any of those elements at all. It's just the most important that the pet looks natural, the pet looks happy, the pet looks calm. And so, even the photo of Boba Fett, right, that was like, he was in the top tier, that photo with the flower pot. So you might be thinking, well, the flower pot is what is doing it. But no, it's actually because Boba Fett looks the most relaxed and happy there. He's got like this like really gentle, soft smile. Again, that like kind of 3/4 view. And then for some reason, just the color of his coat, people said that the flowers really like brought that out. And even, so here we go with the photo of Goose in the cat tree again. I mean, again, like that's his cat tree, so he's relaxed in it. And so again, people just they responded to that photo because they're like, wow, this cat's really relaxed and happy. And so that's just really important for people to see, like either, just like calmness or joy in the animal, and that kind of reflects in the adopter's perception of that pet. So now getting into the digital alterations. So, so first with solid backgrounds, the first photo here of Boba Fett against the yellow background, that was actually pretty polarizing in the qualitative interviews. They were really split on it. They all agreed it kind of looked like an ad, but half of the people were turned off that it looked like an ad, whereas half of the people thought it looked great that Boba Fett looked like he was in an ad. But again, this is why we don't extrapolate, generalizations from qualitative interviews. And you'll see in the next couple of slides, like, this was pretty bottom of the barrel for people. So general takeaway is that photoshopping them and just cutting them out, whatever color background, right? Like I happen to use yellow here, I happen to use white, but like pink, purple, orange, it doesn't matter. People are just seeing this pet in a vacuum essentially, and so they're like, this pet's just like floating in space. Like it makes it difficult for them to, again, like visualize how this pet would look and act in their own home and with them.
And no size reference whatsoever, right? Like, how big is this cat? How big is this dog? Because you're not seeing it in a natural state.
Getting into some of these graphic elements, I know these are like pretty crazy examples, but we're kind of seeing this stuff float through, and especially on social media. And, so you can see from the qualitative testing, so that third exercise, like which photo did you notice the fastest? Like for sure, like your eye goes there. It's like, it's kind of crazy. They weren't lumped together like this. They were definitely like interspersed between the natural photos, but like your eye is immediately drawn to these. But they also all agreed that just because their eye is drawn to it very quickly, that's not the photo that they would click on. Like it would actually just be kind of like distracting in a negative way, and they would move on to click on the photo, the ones that we described before. But again, that's not to say, everything is contextual. It's not to say like hard no on this kind of stuff because, getting into text on photos, right? Here's another example. So, some people actually said they kind of like seeing Goose's name because they're like, oh, a cat named Goose, ha ha ha. But, they still didn't like seeing it on this Photoshop background. Literally the two people who liked the text on the photos were like, well, I just want to see the name of the cat maybe on a natural background. And then some people did say, seeing the attributes like right off the bat, like, food motivated or independent, like that does help them, kind of get this like immediate snapshot. But again, these are not the types of photos you want to be using as your primary photos that are showing up on Adopt-A-Pet or like the first photo on your website. Like these you could consider them, right, for social media, like in your Instagram reels and your YouTube shorts, because, right, people are scrolling through and it is a little bit like, oh, okay, like I can kind of see a snapshot of this pet and know whether or not to get invested in learning more about this pet. Okay, so yeah, now we're getting, this is bottom of the barrel. Like we can agree with like least appealing here. So you can see the trend. All of the digitally altered photos, you know, the dog in the kennel, you know, Boba Fett looking away, just like not engaging. Somebody said, yeah, especially with that kennel one, that he looked like he was in prison and really made them sad. Yeah, so none of these. And then same thing with cat. I mean, right there, I mean, that's pretty, like right in a row, you see all of those digitally altered ones. And interestingly, you know, again, like as a cat person, it's like, we know like a cat is meowing, but like the one with Goose with his mouth open, people thought he looked angry, so.
They're not cat people then. Okay, how?
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All
then
right.
I'm gonna grab my phone and walk slowly. And if you want to get back to the QR
Oh, okay,
code.
good.
Okay. Okay, so this is all of the photos you submitted. You're gonna actually get to vote on them. You're gonna see a pair. There's gonna be 20 rounds. Not everyone is gonna see the same photos. You're just gonna pick which photo is more appealing to you of the pair, and then whoever's pet photo gets to the top is gonna win a $25 Amazon gift card.
Oh, yeah, we're doing it too.
And I'm participating because I wanna see all the photos. 2 at a time, yeah?
Yeah, so this will be like the paired comparison that we were just describing to you.
We have someone who's trying to adopt all of your cats.
Oh my God, Janine and Nikki are dying. What? Oh, she's saying something to me?
It's a way for you to showcase your pets and have fun. Raise your hand if you're still voting. Okay.
Yeah, this is a great example, though.
Yeah. This one too. Mm-hmm. This one too.
Oh, no, actually it changed now,
Oh, it's changing.
but it still corroborates.
Yeah.
You know.
There's like a battle happening
Yeah.
between some of these photos. That's not who's at the top. Wait. No, I'm glad you didn't, because he would have won, so it would have been unfair. Okay, raise your hand if you're still voting. Okay. What was that?
She's just taking a lot of time.
Sorry, I can't hear over the excitement. Yeah, everyone saw different pairings because we had enough photos where not, like it lets you, everyone, the photos were shown to a group of people, but to make the scoring basically effective. It knows how many attendees there are, and it knows how many photos there are. And so not everyone saw the same pairings. Yeah. Yes, which one? Which one? Yes. You just experienced the challenge for adopters, right? Where they're seeing like 2 photos. How do I pick? Okay, who's still voting? Is anyone in the room still voting? Okay. And we got somebody back there still voting? No? Okay, let me just refresh the results here.
I think that's pretty, yeah.
Okay, is everyone seeing the results on your phone? So I can't show you the results up here, unfortunately, because it would require us to like shut everything down. But if you say show results, you will be able to see the results on your phone of who the winner is. So who owns this Bernice Mountain Dog? Congratulations. You are the lucky winner of a $25 Amazon gift card. But as you can see, the photos that are in the top really do go right in line with everything we just said. So we're not exempt as animal welfare professionals to the same things that like adopters are looking for when they're looking to engage with a pet. And you can use this software, it's free. It's called Pull Unit. You can do this with your own pets, like at your shelter or your rescue organization. If you want to have some volunteers take some photos and do a really fun activity, it's free to add up to 20 photos and have up to, I think, 20 participants or something like that. So you can't do as many as we did without paying for it, but you can do 20 photos for free. It's a really fun activity, and I think a really engaging way for you to help train staff and volunteers and fosters on photos, because what better way to show them human behavior and what we're more likely to click on than to actually let them participate. So I hope that was fun. You got to experience it in real time, and now we're going to get back to the key takeaways on photos.
Yeah, I mean, that was really cool just seeing, you guys just doing this activity and those first 5 photos, right? Like boom, 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 just like filling the frame, dog smiling, just like little distraction in the background. So yeah, perfectly getting into the conclusions. Just making a comment on the demographic diversity because we did tease that in the beginning. So interestingly, there were no notable differences based on most segmentations, right, from ethnicity, sex, gender, financial income. The only segment that did have any variation was in that age group. So the average time to select a preferred photo in these activities was about 5 seconds for dog and about 5.2 seconds for cat. But then when we bring in, that age segmentation, the 18 to 45-year-old range, they make a first impression and decision 1.4 times faster than the 46-plus-year-olds. And if we even just only segment Gen Z, the 18 to 28-year-olds, they make a first impression or that first decision 1.7 times faster than the 61-plus-year-olds. And so this is just something, to think about as, we're starting to focus on this next generation of adopters.
They've had a lot of practice with their thumbs.
Yeah, so you gotta catch their attention and make a good impression quickly, basically. Getting into the ideal number of photos, the average range is 4 to 7. The lowest minimum stated was 2. The highest maximum was 10. But generally, most people agreed that like after 6 or 7 photos, you're kind of getting into those diminishing returns. Like it's not really telling them any more about the pet. And then what I thought was interesting, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer that videos are ideal. Like, yeah, that's gold star. But even with a video, for people that didn't mitigate having still photos at all, so it might reduce that number that they want to see by a couple, but it's like they want to see, you know, both. And then again, you can see on the quotes here, I mean, some people are very specific of how they want those photos broken down, like 1 cover photo, 1 close-up, 1 full body. But I mean, again, that corroborates like what, you know, we've been saying here this entire time. So yeah, summary. First of all, again, if you can only get 1 to 2 photos, that's all you have the time or resources for, make sure, like you guys just saw in the poll unit results, that it's zoomed in, the pet is filling the frame, the pet looks happy, natural, you're getting that like face and head, a little bit of the shoulders and chest. But ideally, number 2, you know, try to take a range of photos, so 4 to 7, and including, you know, that couple of those full body frames and, you know, maybe 1 or 2 photos showing a little bit of, you know, a little bit of jazz, a little bit of personality. And again, number 3, you know, just making sure that pet looks like very, if not happy and joyful, just at least like relaxed and not stressed out. Again, those emotions in the pet really translate, you know, to how we feel. I mean, that's why we love animals so much, right? Number 4, again, props and staging aren't a hard no. Everything's contextual, but yeah, keep that visual noise to a minimum. You saw in the poll unit results, again, those top photos, they did not have a lot of distracting elements in the background. If you do use props, like, you know, if it's some kind of hat or, you know, toy, just make sure it's something that the pet is familiar with. So again, that they don't look stressed out that you're putting this like, you know, freaky thing on them. Again, generally try to avoid digitally or graphically altering the background. Natural backgrounds help the adopter envision the pet in their home and, you know, family better. But, you know, same thing with number 6, like try to use text sparingly, but may be something to consider for social media and different kinds of platforms.
So now we're looking in the wild. So these are actual searches done on Adopt-a-Pet where you're seeing a grid of available animals. So we show this kind of grid style. It's 3 across, and then depending on how many results there are, it goes down the page. But what you can see here is now that you have all of this information, you can see that these photos, if this is the first 6 photos I see, especially on these like dogs, you're probably not going to click on Tione, Sienna. They don't look relaxed. They do not look happy, right? They look very stressed out. Phoenix is slightly better because he's looking up, and Holiday's kind of taking that trait, but even with Holiday, that's not the first photo they want to see. That's like the 3rd photo they want to see, and with these pet cards and these search results, this is the opportunity to get them to click on your pet when they're seeing this big, you know, search results where they're seeing many, many pets. And then with the cats, maybe Santa Claus is coming, doesn't look totally freaked out, but the rest, right, are a little like, ah. And so this is what your photos look like to the adopters when they're seeing rows and rows of animals. And so if you're questioning why aren't my pets getting interest on Adopt-a-Pet or any pet adoption listing website, you should probably run a search in your area and see what your photos look like in the search results. So this is Detroit, and you can see a totally different set of dogs here, where now we've got the blanket, so hopefully Suka hasn't been kidnapped. But Canuto, that's a great photo of the dog, but there's so much going on in the background, it's a distraction, and you lose the focal point on Canuto because there's just too much going on in that photo. Whereas like Hagen, that's a great photo up front, using kind of props sparingly, he's got a cute bandana on. And then with Kitty and Carlos, those are great photos of the dogs, but because they have that square dot thing going on in the background, it's just a really big distraction and distracting the user from actually the photo of the dog. And then with the cats, these are all much more like front facing. So we're seeing an improvement here. You know, they look like they're trying to engage with the photo. They look more relaxed. Although Chipmunk looks like being held hostage, and Salem is like tucked into the back. So another thing to keep in mind with the photos. And then the next in the wild is where things get much, much better. So now you can see Providence, Rhode Island, where we've got Butter and Max looking up at the photo, and they're taking the full frame, and Dream looks like a dream pet that I want to have home, you know. Lovey, not so much, but the other ones are all good, you know. And like Ocho is on this hardwood floor, which could be like in a home versus in a shelter, and I guess Bishop, I can't even tell what Bishop is.
I think he's like on his back.
Oh, on his back. Okay, so if that's like a personality shot, definitely keep that for the third or fourth photo, not for the primary photo that they're seeing on the pet card. But you can see in the wild, and this is what we want you to take from this, is run a search, see what your photos look like, and improve them now that you have all of this information. Okay, let's get into our bonus.
Yeah, so take all the photo stuff, put it on the back burner, let it simmer. We're gonna shift gears to adoption fee research. So a little context of why we were even, researching adoption fee. At AdoptAPet, we're always doing research to try to improve, like I said, our website and services for both adopters and shelters and rescues. And so we were doing some, a study on what adopters consider we were calling it a rich pet profile, because again, we understand that sometimes all you can get is the basic information on the pet. But again, it's important to remember that for the adopter, they're not perceiving it that way. Like if the pet profile is missing any of these attributes in this yellow box, they're actually considering the pet profile incomplete. So it's not like, having all of these things is like extra credit to them. They're just like, oh, this pet profile is a C- or something. But all to say, so the attributes in the yellow box, these are the ones that bubbled up as the top 9 important things, and you can see adoption cost is one of those 9. And so to start out with, we launched like a very small test filter. So this is on the search results page. We have all these filters, right, like size, age, all of that, and we added just a small one for adoption fee, just to see if people would even engage with something like that. And then we launched another survey directly on the AdoptAPet site because we get so many users a month, and we very quickly got over 500 responses. And so we wanted to learn, what is the impression of the adoption fee filter? How do people feel about like $0 adoption fee pets? And how much money do people start to feel that this pet is starting to get like too expensive, quote unquote too expensive? So you can see the value of filtering by adoption fee, so generally skewing positive. For some people, right, like finances are a real thing. Like they just can't afford a pet that's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. $0 adoption fees, you can see very skewed positive. That's pretty good. And then we were just kind of seeing, like, does that even matter? Like, what if one pet was like $0 and another pet was $25, but they're like exactly the same, And unsurprisingly, like 80% of people said there's no difference, and I guess a couple people were like, I'd rather pay $25 for the dog, which we'll get into the qualitative rationale in a few slides here. When we bump that up to $100, that no difference for me number goes down. And then obviously like more people would prefer the $0 versus $100.
But still pretty wild, that 67% are like no difference between $0 and $100 on an adoption fee.
When surveyed at what cost is an adoption fee too high, okay, so I removed the outliers of $0, and somebody put $1 million, right? That really screwed up my results there.
Everyone in this room wants that adopter.
You can see that, the highest number stated was $3,000, the lowest was $25,000. The average was $335,000, and then the most often stated number on the mode was $500.
Is that surprising? Seems high, huh?
So then again, kind of getting into the rationale behind these numbers. So, this slide is just to show, like, I did some interviews last year, and I did some interviews this year with the photo research. So this slide, this is qualitative, so this isn't to say like, oh, last year people said that the average was 281, and this year people are saying it's 350. It's just to show, actually, like, around 300 is where people start to feel like the adoption fee is getting a little pricey. And then how do people feel about high fees? So most people do understand that shelters and rescues do have very real costs. Some people even unprompted brought up transport pets. But you can see from the quotes, it's like once you get into that like $400 to $1,000 range, or I guess even multiple thousands, they're wanting to see a quote unquote itemized receipt of what they're getting for that cost. Like what kind of services has the pet received? With $0 adoption fee, so again, you can see from the quantitative results that most people have a positive sentiment toward a pet with no adoption cost at all, but some of these yellow quotes here, these are just some concerns that in the qualitative interviews that people brought up. And this was really applicable to like a singular pet that had a $0 adoption fee with like, kind of like a shelter-wide event like this will empty the shelters, like everybody's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But if it was like, you had adoption fees for all pets, but like this one dog has a $0 adoption fee, they're kind of questioning like why, is there something wrong with the pet, that kind of thing. So adoption fee takeaways, number one is just be transparent about what adoption fees cover at your organization. Write this into the about section, not only on Adopt a Pet, but any other platform you list pets on your own website. Just, again, like I said, they just want to know like what they're getting, spay, neuter, vaccinations, was this pet transported, et cetera.
Heartworm testing, dentals, and put a value. Like what's the value of that thing that they're getting?
Number two, clearly list those adoption fees. So obviously there's adoption fee field, but if you have like blanket adoption fees, like, okay, all dogs are one cost and all cats, or like all puppies and kittens, or all adult dogs and cats, we now have a new field on Adopt a Pet where you can list that, and it'll appear on every pet profile. Sorry, that's supposed to say number three, obviously. But number three, explain any of those fee anomalies. So, if there is a $0 adoption fee just on like one or two pets at the shelter, just explain why. I mean, like you're seeing, like people are understanding. They just want to know. They just want to know the details.
And you may want to just consider saying that the adoption fee has been sponsored versus that this pet's free.
Okay, so with all that being said, we have a little plug for a new feature that we just launched.
To help you with photos.
Yeah. So this feature is really cool because it really empowers you to get that help that you need, because like I keep saying, we understand that your in-house staff might not have the time or resources, but you guys all have volunteers and fosters. And so this new feature, Foster and Volunteer Access, or FAVA as we've been calling it, Adopt a Pet, you can invite volunteers and fosters to Adopt a Pet to edit your pets without letting them access like other sensitive shelter or organization data. So you can invite them directly via email, or we offer a QR code that you guys can download and email out or print out and post in your facility, and they can scan that. And basically what it does is they'll be able to sign up for a very basic Adopt a Pet editing account. They'll be able to see your pet list, and they'll be able to edit a pet, but you can manage the edits. It's not like they're just going wild, just messing up everything. They can edit one pet as a first-time user, and then that series of edits will be emailed to you. You can review them, and then you'll be able to manage, like, okay, I really trust this person. They can edit pets like any publicist, or just keep them at that very like basic permission level. Like, I want to review every edit that they make on every pet.
And fosters, you can let them just edit their own foster pets and not any of the other pets.
Yeah, and you can revoke the pet editing access at any time globally or on a user level, but this is something that we can just show this, hopefully, demo of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so once you invite them, they'll have to verify their email, and I'm just starting the recording from this screen, but so this is the new pet list on the new shelter dashboard. You can see that they can't access a pet that somebody else already edited, for instance, but they're like, oh, I've been fostering Eliza. Eliza doesn't even have a photo. They won't be able to edit the basic fields like name, ID number, or breed or second breed. But yeah, maybe they're like, I have some great photos of Eliza because I've been caring for her. Obviously, this will bring up the media library on your mobile device. But right, like your fosters and volunteers are probably on their phone, and they just have this wealth of great assets to add to the pet profile. Maybe they're like, Eliza is affectionate, she's confident, she's goofy. Somebody previously said that she was shy, but that's not right at all because she was just shut down when she came into the shelter. And so as you can see, submit for approval. Once they submit that, they're actually locked from editing any other pets until you review those first edits and then decide how you want to let this user continue editing pets or not.
So the whole point of us actually creating this was really specific to photos and personality traits, because we know volunteers are always out there, right? Like snapping photos, and they're walking the dogs. And fosters too are like have this ability to get the photos of the pet personality in the home, calm, relaxed, happy in this like home environment. But we did tons of interviews with y'all, and y'all were like, it's a little bit scary to give them access to our software that has a lot of first-party data that's protected. And so this is a way around that, is why we created this for you, for your volunteers, for your fosters. And then the whole editing and monitoring, we heard from you loud and clear that you were not okay with volunteers just going in and editing everything, maybe for some volunteers, but that's why you have full control over all of your volunteers, that whether or not you shut down their access in the future, you can globally shut down if you have maybe something going on in your shelter where you don't want anyone to be editing photos. So that's the whole point of this, is for you to be able to get better photos, more information on a site like Adopt-A-Pet, where we have 3.5 million people stopping by every month. And so they're gonna click on these photos, or they're not gonna click on it because you don't have a good photo. So allowing your volunteers to get those photos now that you have all of this information, get it up there so that people start clicking on it and start reaching out to you to adopt that pet, like Boba Fetch. And we made it with time for questions. 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Thank you. So we do have the box. So I see a person here who wants the box.
I can talk really loud.
I think they want to record it because we're streaming.
Oh, okay. Oh, very cool.
Yeah, we're all famous.
Oh.
Right here in the green shirt.
Thank you. You said before the presentation that we would be able to access the slideshow.
Oh yeah, so if you want the slideshow, or you want to chat with us, Jen and I will both be at the Adopt-A-Pet booth at the hub tomorrow, or today.
Okay.
And so please come talk to us, and then you can come and we'll email you the slide deck directly. Awesome. And there's a lot, she put in all of the photos, the entire appendix of like, if you want to dig in deep, she's got another 30 slides for you. Okay. Somebody else have a question over here? Right here.
So you said to put our adoption process on our profiles. So where would you do that? Because there's not really a spot in Adopt-A-Pet to do that.
So you can do it in the About Us, and that shows up on all of your pets.
Okay.
And then also on your website, wherever you're listing your fees, include what's included in those fees on your website as well.
Okay.
And if you want to come, we'll open up my computer and we'll do it together.
Well, we don't have a website per se, so like
Okay.
we've got Facebook and we have like you guys, that's what we use. So
come to at the Adopt-A-Pet booth and we'll do it together in your Adopt-A-Pet account.
okay.
Yep,
All right, thanks.
yeah. Right in front of you.
I noticed that one of your cats had those, the eyes that are no longer round, they're like flat, which makes the cat look angry. Especially tomcats that have been out have these kinds of issues with the ears and their eyes, and therefore they always look angry. I
Oh,
don't
really?
know.
In the photos?
Well, you had one cat that was like that too, the one that was close up, his eyes were like, most people expect cats to have round eyes,
Yeah.
but either for age or injury, they get that straight across, like, and then sometimes their ears are injured, so they look like they're going back. So we have issues with trying to get those cats to not look angry. I didn't know if you had any, you know.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any kind of software you could use to try to help that, or if you just have to put in the pet's profile, this
Yeah.
cat's not angry, it's just got
Yeah.
angry face.
Yeah.
It's just
some
got
of them have-
RBF.
We play up personality a lot.
Okay, 'cause some of them have that resting, face that you're just like, really? And then when you're trying to show infections, how do you do that if you're not showing them sit in your lap for cats?
Yeah. That's why you really want to try to get them into like a room they're comfortable with. Like if you could set up a room that's meant for photographs and take them in there regularly before you try to get the photo,
Okay,
so that they're really comfortable with the space and so that then they chill and kind of relax and then get their photo.
okay, thank you.
Versus the like, just trying to get this
Well,
cat's
I
photo.
have one that she wants to sit on me all the time, and I'm trying to get a picture of her and not me. You don't need my double chin, but I want to show you that this is the kind of cat she is.
Yeah, that might be a good like later, yeah,
Yes.
the personality photo, like she's very cuddly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the third photo, the fourth photo.
Okay, good
Yeah.
one. They're in the fourth one. Okay, thank you.
Okay, over here. Time's up. We're going to come down and talk to you. Okay.